Hi there, my name is Mike Donovan with Lion Dog African Safaris, and we're going to just have a short talk here on the Nile Valley. This is actually an excerpt out of our ebook called How to Best Tour Africa. It's an excellent resource on knowing anything about tours to Africa, and it's free, no obligation. Just email us or call us and we'll send it to you, no charge. Now, when people think of Africa, tours to Africa, they're generally thinking of sub-Saharan Africa, that part of Africa south of the Sahara Desert. But there's a huge part of Africa north of the Sahara Desert, and the big area of interest there is the Nile Valley, that section of the Nile River that runs through Egypt. This is sort of the birthplace of civilization as we know it. Just a little bit here about the mentality of the Egyptians, the society that they built up over thousands of years, way ahead of their time in relation to other societies at the time. And they just created a lot of interesting concepts, life after death, and there's just very interesting way that they had of thinking that still influences us today. So anyway, a little more on the tour. As I say, this is the Nile River, and it runs from south to north. It's all desert, except all along the river there is a beautiful green oasis. And there's all sorts of towns here, and I believe something like 90% of the population that lives in Egypt lives along the Nile Valley here. Now, here is Cairo here. So we would typically arrive in Cairo. Just kind of thinking here. Yeah, so we would typically arrive in Cairo. Now, there's two ways of touring Egypt. The one way is to do a Nile Valley cruise, and I'll just talk about that here briefly. So we would generally fly into Cairo and then either overnight or fly directly down into Luxor, and then we would stay there. Now in Luxor we really highly recommend we do the Nile cruise. So from Luxor you visit Karnak and you'll visit the West Bank, and then once we've toured this area, and this is a very interesting area, by the way, around Luxor. To me, this is sort of the best part of visiting the Nile Valley. But then we get on a cruise ship and we actually cruise down the river to Esna, Edfu, Kamamo, down to Aswan. It's a 4-night, 5-day cruise. We also fly down to Abu Simbel, visit Abu Simbel, and then fly back to Aswan as well, if you're interested in incorporating that in your visit. This is the type of cruise ship that you take here is this here. So everybody gets a window. There's a nice upper deck here. Well, here's the view from the deck. You can see how it's all nice and green and lush along the river's edge here. The river's not that wide, so you actually get to see both sides of the river. So as you're going down the river, up the river, however you want to perceive it, you know, you're eating well on the ship. There's, you know, you can be sun tanning here. There's a pool here. They bring you drinks and appetizers, and there's nighttime entertainment on the ship. It's very safe. Great opportunity to socialize with the other guests. And then you would stop off at the ports, and they would put you on you can either walk to the antiquity, or drive you to in a car to the antiquity, or some of them have horse carriage to take you to the antiquity and back to the boat again. So really a lot of fun way to do the lower Nile here from Luxor down to Aswan, and possibly down to Abu Simbel if you want to extend it down there. So that's the boat cruise. Now, if you're interested in Cairo, so in Cairo here on the west side of the city, and it's a huge city, like we're talking multi-millions of people there. There's a place there called Giza. This is where the Great Pyramids are, the Sphinx, Memphis, Saqqara, so on and so forth. So, but what the drawback here is you have to, when you fly into Cairo Airport, you have to drive through the city. So it's an interesting drive. It's not the nicest city I've ever been in. Matter of fact, it's probably the worst city I've ever been in. Driving across the city, 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, depending on traffic. Now, and other things that you can do here as part of your Cairo tour, aside from visiting the pyramids and the Sphinx and so on, is in Cairo itself. There's the Cairo Museum. Where is that? Well, we don't have. Oh, here it is. So this is an amazing museum. I mean, you could spend weeks and months in this museum, but we only have a day to do it. So we'll visit the museum. You can also visit a bazaar in Cairo, which is kind of cool. There's all kinds of interesting doodads there. Anyhow, this would be the pyramids and the Sphinx. This would be the West Bank out of Luxor. In Aswan, they have the cataracts here. And there's also the Great Aswan Dam that they've built here. But anyway, in the cataracts here, you can take these boats here. They're called feluccas, and sail through these little channels here and visit Nubian towns or botanical gardens and things like that. What else do I need to point out here to you? Well, let's talk about the links. Now, in a lot of our documents, we have links. So if you just click on the link, normally we are taking you to a video to play the video. So here we just enlarge the screen, and it's just a little video generally explaining in a little more detail those aspects of the tour. To get out of here, we just push escape on our top left hand corner of our keyboard, and then we'll just turn it off, and we'll go back to our document here. So anyway, all these are links, so lots of good information there to help you understand what's involved there with the trip. Explain to you about the boat. The Valley of the Kings is my favorite spot that I visited in Egypt. Very fascinating, but it's again on the west bank of the of where Luxor is. Valley of the Queens, all those things are there as well. We generally have a guide, an Egyptologist, actually somebody who's been to university, attend or be your guide, who can explain things to you, because otherwise you just don't know what you're looking at. I mean, there's literally hieroglyphics here, and these guys understand the hieroglyphics. They understand the significance of the hieroglyphics. So you can go to a particular antiquity, and it'll be quite a large complex, but maybe the Egyptologist will take you to one wall that's the significant part of that particular antiquity and explain it to you. And the advantage of having this is immense. I mean, the value of the tour, you just won't believe how much it's elevated. We've actually been there, and we've had other people from other tour groups come and walk with us to listen to our guide, because they weren't getting the information. And a lot of times, you know, you'll go into these places, if you don't have a proper guide, take a picture and walk out, you know, and you don't even know what you're taking a picture of. So anyhow, we have, and this is sort of across all of our tours, we have excellent guides. And to me, a trip without a good guide is just a waste of time. Okay, so anyhow, we have all those information in there. Now, if you're going to just do the river cruise, that's kind of like a four night, 5 day duration. If you're going to do, if you only have 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 or 4 days, you would want to just do the Cairo portion. But if you have 8, 9, 10 days, you could do both: the river cruise on the Southern Nile, and then the Cairo Giza combination up there. The other thing, by the way, is sorry to be flipping this all the time, but these things come to into my head here as I'm talking. But a lot of our clients have been combining a tour of the Nile Valley with Jordan. And in Jordan, you have the Petra, which is really cool. That's where that movie was made with Indiana Jones. There's the Dead Sea there. We visited the Bedouin camps. Lawrence of Arabia. This is where Lawrence of Arabia operated. So there's a little monument there to him. Yeah, you can easily combine a tour of the Nile Valley and Jordan quite readily. We enjoyed Jordan. So anyhow, this is Abu Simbel. This is the picture of the Valley of the Kings. Again, this is Abu Simbel at night. This is just sort of a picture along the shores of the Nile as you're going down the boat. There's all kinds of nice little villages and farmland here. A lot of perfumes. I think Egypt is sort of the mother of perfume making here. So, and guys, you will not believe the size and the immensity and the number of antiquities in Egypt. It just blows you away. And again, we didn't overdo the antiquities. I mean, because you can, after a while, you get what I call ruined out. So we just had enough to make it interesting. And again, having the guide really helped quite a bit. So anyway, Nile Valley, October, November. It's a good time to go. Matter of fact, it looks like it's the perfect time to go. March, April, May. The month of the weather is warm. Okay, basically what I'll tell you is June, July, August. That's not a good time to go because it's freaking hot there. Okay, so now when I wrote this last, there had just been a couple of tourist police shot and killed at the Giza pyramids, which was a first, and there was also a failed suicide bombing attempt in Luxor. So we were not recommending tours to Egypt at that time. That's been a couple months now. I haven't heard, and I do pay attention, of any recent endeavors into the tourist areas. Now, there's a lot of trouble going on in Sinai with the Muslim Brotherhood, but that there hasn't. The fighting has mainly been between factions within Egypt. They've been mainly leaving the tourists alone. Nevertheless, the tourist numbers are way down in Egypt, and prices, believe it or not, prices are literally half or less than half of what they would normally be, and there's no crowds at the antiquities. So I know prior to all the trouble, you would actually stand in line for quite some time in order to enter the antiquities. Now it's just walk in, do your thing, pictures, questions, and then leave. So cheap, no crowd. So if you're willing to go there under those conditions, great time to go. Anyway, as I say, this is an excerpt out of our ebook, How to Best Tour Africa. It's available by just calling us or emailing us. It's free. So you're welcome for the information.